Welcome back to Master 79. In this video we are doing a complete ielts speaking part 2 and part 3 walkthrough on the topic of movies. We will brainstorm the cue card together, build a 1-minute plan, deliver a full band 9 long turn, and then work through 4 part 3 questions with model answers. First, how part 2 actually works. The examiner hands you a card with a topic and 3 or 4 prompts. You get 1 minute to prepare, and you are given paper and a pencil, so use them. You then speak for 1 to 2 minutes without interruption. If the examiner stops you at 2 minutes, that is a good sign. It means you had enough to say. Here is the cue card. Describe a movie you watched recently and would like to watch again. You should say what it was about, where you watched it, and why you like it, and explain why you would like to watch it again. Notice that final line. It is not decoration. It is the part most candidates forget to answer. Now the planning method. In that 1 minute, do not write sentences. You will never read them naturally. Write trigger words only. Give each prompt a keyword. Then add 1 concrete detail underneath it that you know you can expand. Choose a real memory, because invented stories run dry after about 40 seconds. And save your strongest idea for the final prompt. That is the one that carries you all the way to 2 minutes. The first prompt, what it was about. Name the film, director, genre, 1 sentence. Then move on. Premise, not plot summary, the situation, not the ending. Add the emotional layer underneath the surface story. And here is the language to reach for, set in a near future, on the surface something underneath, a story about science fiction epic. The second prompt, where you watched it. 2 places means 2 chances to add detail, cinema, then home. Sensory detail, the screen, the seats, the weather outside. Say what you did to protect the experience. And here is the language to reach for one of those enormous screens on a wet Sunday afternoon with the curtains drawn, the closest I can get to. The third prompt, why you like it. Pick 2 reasons, not 5. Depth beats breadth. 1 scene described concretely is worth 10 adjectives. Comment on craft, score, cinematography, performance. And here is the language to reach for the way it fuses something with absolutely devastating, gets under your skin, builds and builds. The fourth prompt, why you'd watch it again. Answer the explain prompt directly. Examiners listen for it. Rewatch value, what you noticed the second time. Finish with a judgment, not a fade out. And here is the language to reach for it. Rewards rewatching, you catch things you missed, bits of foreshadowing, the mark of a genuinely great film. This is what 1 minute of planning should actually look like on the page. 4 lines. Trigger words only. Nobody but you will ever read it, and you should be able to glance down and recover instantly. Now the full band 9 long turn, delivered in 4 chunks so you can see how each prompt is covered. Listen for the signposting phrase at the start of each section.
I'd like to talk about Interstellar, the science fiction film directed by Christopher Nolan, which I watched about a month ago, and honestly, I'd happily sit through it again tomorrow. In terms of what it's about, it's set in a near future where the soil has been ruined and crops are failing one after another, so humanity is quietly running out of food. A former pilot turned farmer is recruited to fly through a wormhole and look for a habitable planet, which means leaving his young daughter behind, possibly for good. So on the surface it's a space epic, but underneath it's really a story about a father and a daughter separated by time. As for where I watched it, the first time was to cinema in my city, one of those enormous screens with the seats that vibrate. But this most recent time, I streamed it at home on a wet Sunday afternoon with the curtains drawn and my phone in another room, which is about the closest I can get to recreating the experience. The reason I love it so much is the way it fuses cold, hard science with something incredibly tender. There's a scene where he comes back to the ship after a short trip down to a planet and finds more than 2 decades of messages from his children waiting for him, and it is absolutely devastating. And the score by Hans Zimmer gets under your skin. The organ just builds and builds. As for why I'd watch it again, it rewards rewatching. The plot is dense enough that you keep catching things you missed, little bits of foreshadowing, lines that only make sense once you already know the ending. Every time I see it, I come away with a slightly different reading of it, and I think that's the mark of a genuinely great film.
Here is the complete long turn on one screen. Pause the video and read it through. Notice that every one of the 4 prompts is explicitly signposted, and the answer ends on a judgment rather than trailing off. These are the phrases doing the heavy lifting in that answer. Learn them as whole chunks, not as single words. Now part 3. This is a 4 to 5 minute discussion linked thematically to your part 2 topic. The questions move from concrete to abstract and away from you personally towards people in general. Aim for 3 to 5 sentences per answer. Longer than part 1, much shorter than part 2. And the shape that reliably works is this. Give an opinion, give a reason, give an example, then concede something. That last step is what separates a 7 from a 9. Part 3, Question 1. Where do people normally watch movies? How do we attack it? Default is home or streaming, TV, laptop, phone on the commute. Cinema survives as an occasion, not a habit. Third spaces, planes, projectors in a garden, a friend's sofa. And the language to aim for the default is more of an occasion than a habit where the spectacle justifies the ticket spread out from something into.
These days, I'd say the default is at home, on a streaming platform. People watch on a television, a laptop, or increasingly just a phone on the commute. The cinema is obviously still there, but it's become more of an occasion than a habit. You go for the big blockbusters where the spectacle justifies the ticket. And there's a middle category too, watching on a plane or at a friend's place with a projector in the garden. So really, viewing has spread out from one dedicated venue into basically every screen people own.
Part 3, Question 2. What are the differences between watching movies at home and in a cinema? How do we attack it? Technical, screen, sound, a room engineered for attention. Psychological, you've committed, so you surrender to the film. Trade-off framing, immersion versus convenience and control. And the language to aim for nothing competes for your attention, you've committed, surrender to the film, the trade-off is.
The obvious differences are technical, the screen size, the sound system, the fact that a cinema is engineered so that nothing competes for your attention. But I think the more important difference is psychological. In a cinema, you've committed, you've paid, you've travelled, your phone is off, so you actually surrender to the film. At home, you're half watching, pausing to make tea, scrolling during the slow parts. The trade-off is comfort and control, because you can rewind, add subtitles, watch in your pajamas. So the cinema gives you immersion and home gives you convenience.
Part 3, Question 3. Are actors or actresses important to movies? Why? How do we attack it? Yes, performance is what makes an audience care. Concede, the old star system has weakened. Split the question, artistic importance vs commercial pull. And the language to aim for enormously, yes, though the whole thing collapses, open a film on its own, no longer the main thing that sells a ticket.
Enormously, yes, though perhaps less than they used to be. A performance is what makes an audience care. You can have a brilliant script and beautiful cinematography, but if the lead is unconvincing, the whole thing collapses. That said, the old star system has definitely weakened.
20 years ago, a big name could open a film on its own. Now audiences turn out for franchises and for directors as much as for actors.
So I'd say actors are still essential to whether a film works artistically, but they're no longer the main thing that sells a ticket.
Part 3, Question 4. Why are there fewer people going to the cinema to watch movies? How do we attack it? Streaming economics, a month of films for the price of one ticket. The release window has collapsed, so waiting costs almost nothing. Cost of the night out. The pandemic broke the habit. Attention spans and the language to aim for several things have converged. The window something has shrunk once you factor in broke the habit, a bigger ask than it used to be.
Several things have converged. The most obvious is streaming. For the price of one ticket, you get a month of unlimited films at home, and the window between the cinema release and the streaming release has shrunk to a few weeks, so waiting costs you very little. On top of that, going out has become expensive once you factor in tickets, snacks, and transports. And the pandemic broke the habit for a lot of people. Once you've spent a couple of years watching everything on the sofa, you don't automatically go back. I'd add that attention spans have shifted to sitting still for 2 hours is a bigger ask than it used to be.
And here is the Part 3 language bank. The concession phrases in the second column are the highest value items on this screen. So why would this be assessed at Band 9? Here is the reasoning against the 4 public criteria. A quick note on the label. Band 9, here is our own internal quality assessment measured against the public ielts band descriptors. It is not a certified examiner score. Use it as a target to aim at, not as a guarantee. Here is your challenge. Record yourself answering the same cue card and hold yourself to the full 2 minutes. Then listen back and check one thing. Did you clearly signpost all 4 prompts? After that, answer the 4 part 3 questions in about 4 sentences each. If this helped, subscribe to Bmaster79 and I will see you in the next one.